Maybe this video shouldn't be called the most forgettable books, but instead the most forgetful booktuber. So welcome back to my channel. Today it's just gonna be a little bit of a random video, but a while ago I looked at my read books on Goodreads, like the ones that marked as read like forever ago, and I noticed so many books that I genuinely have no recollection of ever having read. I don't think that I was cheating and just putting them on my Goodreads as read, so they must have been super forgettable. I feel like a large portion of the reason why I forgot reading them is because it was before my time on BookTube, largely, and also because I don't own them. And in general, I've said before, I have a pretty bad memory, and when I own books, I constantly see them and get to look at them and like, I don't know, it's different, obviously. They're like a lot more present in my memory than books that I don't own. On the other hand, I do still remember vividly a bunch of books I read in my childhood that I just got from the library, so these must be particularly forgettable. And I just like want to talk about them today. I clearly can't tell you too much about them for obvious reasons, but we're just gonna talk about them. Why not? The first book is Incarceral, and I read this, I think about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, not sure. I'm pretty sure I read this when I was in England working as an au pair, because there was a great library near me and I got a bunch of books from there and I read this book. I think it had something to do with keys. Who would have thought? I think I enjoyed it, and I think there's even a sequel to it or more sequels to it, but I just have no memory beyond that. The next is the Spyglass series by, I think this is written, wait, what was her name? Maria V. Snyder. She also wrote the other series, the Poison Study series, and I think I also read books from that series. And I have a bit of a clearer recollection of reading those. I have barely any recollection of reading the Spyglass series. I don't know how many books I read. Again, I think I got them from the library, and I think I just like vaguely remember a feeling I had when reading it, which was pretty positive. Like, I enjoyed it at the time. I remember water. Wow, I remember water. That's just so great. Good job. Next is, I didn't only forget the book, I forgot it after looking on my list again. Like, that's next level forgettable. It's Little Bones. I think that this book is historical fiction, and I think it's set in London, and I think it follows like a young girl that lives on the street and is an orphan or something. Maybe not. Maybe I remember a completely different book, but that's just like what I think this book was about. I think I enjoyed it, I just forgot it. Then we have the Bellwether revivals, and this is actually one of the books that I remember more strongly than pretty much everything else. I think that the book follows twins in some way. I think there's like a Bellwether family, and that they have like children. There's like, I don't know, it kind of reminded me of, what's that movie called? This like where with this is tragic because I can't remember even the things that technically know. Sarah Michelle Gellar? Buffy. Buffy? I don't know, what is that her name? Buffy. Anyway, the Buffy actress was in it, and then she has like some sort of incestuous relationship with her brother. The fuck is that movie called? Maybe this video shouldn't be called the most forgettable books, but instead the most forgetful booktuber, which is a crown that I proudly wear. Anyway, it reminded me of that movie in that sense, but then again, I might be confusing this with a very different book, from which I only remember that there was like one guy that was heavily injured and he was like crawling on his hands through glass, and there was some sort of dispute among people. I'm being very specific, I know, but it might also be that book. Or it is the one with the twins, or both of these things are the same book. I don't know. Magic! I think I read this book because a friend from school recommended it to me. I think she read like the entire series. There's like multiple books. I don't know anything about it. I remember nothing. I mean, I guess there was magic in it, but I genuinely have an issue with books that use different spellings for like standard words. like magic. And it was just strange. It was not for me, I think. I think my friend owned like more books in the series and I could have borrowed them and read them, but I never wanted to, so it was very forgettable. And then I didn't write it down, but also the Septimus Heap series, which might as well be this series. I don't know if this is the same series, but I know that the Septimus Heap series is about the seventh son of a seventh son, which I only know because of my stellar Latin skills, which tell me that Septimus means the seventh. Tanglerek, which is a middle grade book that I borrowed from my au pair child when I was in England. And it's about a house or a car, I think, that travels through time. I don't know. It's probably not. I think there is time travel involved, but something travels through time, or maybe not. Next is A Great and Terrible Beauty by Libba Bray. In this case, I remember that I read it, but I remember zero plot. Zero. Nothing. My brain is an empty vessel that is constantly being filled and drained again. I think maybe I read too much to remember all the books I read. Then is Vampire Diaries by L.J. Smith, and I read multiple books in this series, and I do remember that I read them in this case. Again, I just don't remember the precise plot because I watched the show, and the show is very different. It quickly like deviates from the books, and it's very different. It's a lot better actually in terms of plot and like ideas that they come up with. I just know that Katarina was able to transform herself into a snow leopard in the books, which I thought was pretty cool. Like, I loved the series, the book series, when I read it, and then people told me it wasn't good, and then I took a closer look and I was like, maybe you're right. I just remember loving the series and talking with my friend about it, and we would literally write things like, Damon, come in. Oh my god, it's so cringy. But we would write these things in like our notebooks. I also desperately wanted to show not to use the pronunciation Damon, because we obviously had been reading the German versions and we would say Damon, and I know that we wanted that so bad, and we were so pissed off when they used Damon, which makes obviously much more sense, but I don't know. It's just, again, 16-year-old me, or I don't know. I wasn't 17. No. That is the cutoff point, hopefully, for my stupidity. Another book I found is called The Bulgarian Connection, which, and again, I have no idea. What is this? I do not know. Then we have The Writing Class, which might be one of the book where I said earlier, like, it could be this story, it could be this story. This could be the book that houses the other, whichever the other is. Or it's just something completely different. I don't know. Rumor has it, which I know the story of because I've seen the movie like several times. I don't remember ever having read the book. Somehow, apparently I did, but I don't know when or where or what. I do not remember. And finally, a book that I didn't write on this list but that just came to mind is The Accidental American or something like that. I think this is another book that I read while I was in England, and it was very hard for me to get through. I think it was one of my first like almost forays into like adult fiction. It was very hard for me to follow. I don't know if it was because of the language or just because of the pacing and everything that I just like wasn't used to from like adult fiction. Not even, I had read adult books before, but like this type of, it's just like a heavier book to read, I guess. I don't know. At least to me it was. And there was a lot of like historical and like political stuff in it that I just didn't gel with at the time because I didn't care about these things. I don't know, apparently I read it. So these are all of the most forgettable books I've ever read, unless I've forgotten the rest. There's probably more, but like these are the ones that I like saw on Goodreads. Thanks for watching this very pointless video. Let me know if you have any books that you've forgotten, unless you've forgotten them. I should stop doing these too obvious puns, like they're just not fun anymore. I hope you still enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, the usual, and come back every Tuesday and Friday for a new video. I will see you then. Have a lovely week. Bye!